Last weekend, I decided to take part in a Game Maker game jam called GM48, where you have 48 hours to create a game following a theme the community voted on. My grandpa's birthday party would be on Sunday, so I knew I would be missing some hours, and the day before the jam I destroyed my right hand in a freak Healy accident. But despite every roadblock life was throwing at me, I was determined to take part in the game jam. So at midnight on that Friday, the theme was revealed to be delivery, and I began working right away. The first thing I did was create a small mind map, throwing ideas around to try to figure out what would be possible to make with the several handicaps in place. My first impulse was to make a short 3D horror game, but with all the pacing and event scripting that goes into this, I decided against it. Another idea was a minute-inspired game, where you would have 1 minute to deliver a package, where you would need to unlock shortcuts or gain knowledge in each run to finally make it in under a minute. Ultimately, I decided on a lane runner type game. The idea was that you're a rabbit on a scooter delivering packages for a delivery app company like Grab or Gojek, avoiding cars, pedestrians, and so on to make it to your destination. So at first I needed some graphics for the road, so I created this blackish square and the white street line. I then took those and created the first simple street layout with 3 lanes in GameMaker. I gave the street lines simple code to move them from right to left, resetting their position all the way to the right when they are out of view, to give the illusion of an endlessly scrolling street. I then created the graphics for the scooter of the player character and then added the little rabbit on top. Putting him onto the street looked really good already, but I found him to be a bit too small, so I increased the sprite size and now it looked perfect. I then added some movement code. Pressing up or down changed the lane you were driving on, and pressing left or right moved the scooter more to either side, which gave the illusion of accelerating or braking. But moving around without any obstacles was boring, so I added the first hazard to the game, which was just this red cube, following similar code as the street lines, moving to the left and resetting position, but changing the lane it appears on at random as well. Avoiding this obstacle was already fun, so I knew I made the right choice for the game jam. To make everything look more interesting, I added some background elements and also framed the street with some sidewalk graphics. It already looked much nicer, but I added some more background variety just to make everything a bit more interesting for the eye. Having made the environment interesting enough, I then started making the actual gameplay more interesting too, so I needed some hazard controller. For this, I pre-created several different spawn patterns in code and let the controller choose which hazard to spawn after the pattern before was no longer on the road. I used the choose function for this and duplicated the patterns differently to make some patterns more frequent than others. Oh yeah, and I also added this cute little car which went by at a different speed compared to the other obstacle, changing everything up some more. They even changed lanes when detecting the red block hazard, making them more unpredictable. Then I was tired of seeing the stupid placeholder red block graphic and gave it a new coding by drawing a traffic cone. And also added some new cars which functioned identical but gave more visual variety. Also, to add more juice right away, I gave the wheels and ears of the rabbits some movement and added this bouncy animation to the vehicles in code, increasing and decreasing the height and width of the sprites, which made everything look much more alive. Following this, I added a smoke particle effect to the scooter using GameMaker's built-in particle system, and then in a slight variation to the cars as well. Since you would be failing a lot, I wanted to make each death interesting and coded this crash animation. For it, I split up the sprite into 3 parts and let them fly all over the place in different trajectories, stopping when hitting the original Y position. To make the game a bit easier, I added a helmet, which you would first lose when hitting an obstacle, granting you 1 extra hit point before crashing. I then also added a helmet pickup and another controller that spawned helmets at random. I also created a system for driving on the sidewalk. I wanted the player to be able to use the sidewalk as additional lanes in an emergency, but only for a limited time. So I added this police timer, which filled up when driving on the sidewalk. Once it was full, you failed the run. This made for a fun risk and reward system. On the topic of progress bars, I then added the actual win condition, which was represented by this delivery status bar. Once it reaches the house of the customer, you win the level. To increase the difficulty, I created more patterns and more hazard controllers to have distinct levels with different patterns and pattern frequencies. Playing now was already a lot of fun and felt quite polished and fleshed out already. But we weren't quite there yet. First, I added another obstacle, the scooter. This fella stays in view a long time and switches lanes erratically, making him difficult to dodge. I also created some obstacles for the sidewalks, making it even riskier to drive past everything on there. But the ultimate challenger was yet to appear. A scooter from a rival delivery app company. Appearing in later levels, this guy behaved a lot like the regular scooter, but spawned additional traffic cones. And once out of view, he tries to crash into you from behind. What a prick. The gameplay loop already felt almost finished, so I sat down and made the main menu in the style of an app and created in-game how-to instruction screens in the same style. I created a similar save game feature as I did in my Game Boy game Devlogs to save your progress, and finally made a level select screen for which I decided on 9 levels in total to not succumb to scope creep after all. Remember, my time was limited and my hand was shredded. As a final difficulty spike, I added this nasty fog to the last 3 levels, which forced you to react a lot faster to everything. Playtesters were struggling with it, but I liked it, so I just eased it up a bit for the final release and decreased the frequency of nasty patterns on these levels. At this state, I was really happy with everything, so I went over to the finishing touches, which means I created a banger music track on my keyboard, the one you heard in the background this whole video, and put it into the game, as well as some sound effects, because without them everything feels just a bit wrong and unfinished. So now let's take a look at the finished game. I am really happy how it turned out, despite having less time and less feelings in my fingers. I'm actually quite proud of my achievement. The game is functional, robust, and actually fun to play. This is an incredible feeling, which is why I encourage everyone, even if you're just starting out, to participate in a game jam and see what you can already achieve. Thinking back to my first ever game jam, having a game out there people actually can play feels like a huge milestone. Because it is. So there you have it. Links to my entry and the GM48 website are in the description. If you want to, you can leave a fair rating for my game and also give me some creative criticism. You will have to create an account, but it's free of course and only takes like 1 minute. So any feedback is much appreciated. Also do me a favor and check out the other entries for this game jam, as there are some real gems among them. So, with that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye!